What's up, guys? You're listening to the Airtime Misfits Podcast. I'm your host, Adam, alongside Nick.
How's it going, guys?
And this episode might leave you feeling a little blue,
It's
or
true.
you may leave a streak in your pants.
One of the two is bound to happen.
So we're going to be talking about a coaster that technically isn't defunct yet, but all signs are pointing to it becoming defunct. And that roller coaster that we're going to be talking about is the Blue Streak, located at Conneaut Lake Park in, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, Conneaut Lake, Pennsylvania, I believe.
Yes. So stick around.
Was a very early wooden coaster in America. 1938 was when it opened.
Yeah,
and
very old.
Very, very old. Obviously not Leap the Dips old necessarily, but pretty close.
Yeah, it's actually the 17th oldest wooden coaster in the country.
In the country, 17th. Okay, so yeah.
Yes.
So for it to be that old and still standing currently, that's a heck of a deal.
Yeah.
Came in at a whopping 78 feet tall with a duration of 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And as far as the speed goes, I guess there's no real record on that. And I'm sure someone will correct us if they found something. But in my research, I was not able to see anything.
I think I saw on Wikipedia, which is always 100% accurate.
That is true, yes.
I think it was like 50 miles an hour.
That sounds accurate. Something about that. Somewhat 78. I mean, it makes me think a lot of like probably the stats similar to Blue Streak at Cedar Point.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, very similar. Probably, I would imagine that Blue Streak at Cedar Point was somehow inspired by this model to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Not being very far away from Cedar Point either.
Right.
And it was designed by Edward A. Vettel. Now that's a name that you probably didn't know, but he was actually born in Sandusky, Ohio. Fun fact.
Oh, that is fun.
In 1885, and died in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So he also was known for building Cyclone at Lakeside Park in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
So
I haven't been there yet, but hoping to next summer.
No, I agree. We are definitely hoping to get out there. But yeah, those are some of his most popular ones. Another notable coaster that he actually built was Zephyr at Pontchartrain Beach, which was what Jazzland, which became Six Flags New Orleans, was inspired after.
Yeah.
And then they built their own Mega Zeph, kind of like a nod to Zephyr. So that was one of his coasters as well. So he's actually got a pretty good lineup here. But yeah, those are some of his most notable ones.
So I've been on Blue Streak. Nick has not. So I wrote it in the summer of 2019, and I believe that was the last summer that it was running, because I don't even think the park opened in 2020 with COVID and everything. I think it stayed closed as far as I know. And the park has been open, or was open, in the summer of 2021, but Blue Streak has been closed all summer.
Yes, absolutely. So it's actually funny how, it's been SB&O this whole year, and we'll get into later why we're actually picking this coaster to talk about, because that whole story is a little interesting.
Yeah.
But its history has been a little rough in terms of going SB&O for a significant amount of time.
Yes, because this is not the first time.
No, this is actually the third time.
Right.
So it is. So it was open on July 4th, 1938, and then it stayed open until 94. So quite a long.
That's a long run. Yeah,
long run. And must have gotten a little tired in 95 and 96 because it took a little nap, took a break. And then from 97 to 06. It's another good, decent run, 11 years or 9 years. Yeah, 9 years. And then it took a 3-year break, 07 to 10. So that's a pretty significant chunk of time. for a coaster to just be MIA essentially.
Yeah, and I imagine in that time period too, a lot of people assume that it probably wouldn't open again.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
When a coaster, doesn't operate for 2 to 3 years, you kind of don't think it's coming back.
Right. Exactly. I mean, gosh, think about any number of these. I mean, and nowadays you see a coaster go down for a month or two, and you're like, oh, it's gone. It's gone.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. It's a done deal. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, I can imagine 3 years if you lived in Conneaut Lake, Pennsylvania, you would have been really chomping at the bit there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then it had another 9-year run, 2010 to 2019, and then as you said, it's been standing but not operating there for a while. And this is actually, I do believe, an Ace landmark coaster.
It is, yes.
And which is a very significant honor to have for such a small park.
It is, yeah. And I think Ace is a big reason why Blue Streak has kind of hung on for as long as it has, being at such a small park. I think if it wasn't for Ace, I don't think this coaster would be around at all anymore. And it probably, I mean, even, that stretch of time, and I think you said the late 2000s to 2010 or whatever, that it was closed. I'm assuming Ace, they probably had a large part of getting the coaster back up and running.
Oh, absolutely.
Because their love for classic wooden coasters and trying to preserve as many of those classic coasters as possible.
Yes.
And so I think if it wasn't for Ace, I don't think this coaster would even have survived into the 2010s.
Yeah. So quick little plug for Ace. Not only did Adam design the current artwork for American Coaster Enthusiasts.
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Aside from that point, this is what Ace does, guys. We are huge fans of Ace and what they do. They preserve coasters. They try and keep the memory alive. And this is what, if you join, and this is what your dues essentially goes towards, is these sorts of initiatives. So to that point, obviously with Blue Streak being down for, 2 years now at this point, Ace has really kind of pushed the issue and been pretty vocal about the issue and petitioning, I believe, with Conneaut Lake Park, just for, there seems to be some dishonesty from what I gather in terms of why they shut it down. There seems to not be a whole clear line of communication with the general public about what the heck is going on with Blue Streak and what its fate is. And if nothing else, Ace is saying, hey guys, look, Conneaut Lake, even if you're going to shut it down, just tell us. We want to know. We want to have one last ride, or even if we don't have that, we just want to know what's happening.
Right.
So what have you heard about that whole thing, Adam?
Yeah, I think over the last several years, there's been speculation whether the park's going to survive much longer, because when I visited in 2019, I could clearly see that the park was teetering on the edge.
Sure.
It was definitely a rundown looking park. So I think at the end of the 2019 season, I believe the park was sold to its current owner, or it went into foreclosure. Maybe I don't know for sure, but a new owner took over, and initially this man, I forget his name, he said all the right things. He said everything that you wanted to hear. He was going to invest in the park. You wanted to keep the park alive. He wanted to invest in Blue Streak, everything that coaster enthusiasts want to hear. But over the summer of 2021, that kind of all came undone, because slowly rides started showing up on auction websites, and Blue Streak never opened. And the new owner just kind of went silent, and he wasn't answering questions. And so everyone's just kind of wondering, like, what is going on? From what it looks like, he's sold off the majority of the rides at the park. So the speculation is that the park will probably be no more moving after this season. I think they were open for Halloween, but it seems like, if I had to guess, that Conneaut Lake will probably not open again, if I had to guess.
Yeah, that's sort of my theory too. And I think a huge part of kind of the reason that a lot of the public is upset, or enthusiasts are really upset, is it's like, okay, we see this, we understand that this is a business move, we understand that maybe the park will close, but hey, at least keep the memory of Blue Streak alive. I mean, my gosh, it's it's an ace landmark. I mean, that's no small feat. You'd think that there would be some sort of, homage to the coaster, whether it's the actual structure staying up or a portion of the structure, like whatever this owner is doing. Obviously he's got a capitalist mindset. He's going to do whatever makes the most sense dollars wise. So if that means to shut the park down, okay, we get it. It's a dying park. It hasn't been thriving for a number of decades, really. Certainly hasn't gotten anything that new or exciting. Okay, shut it down. But just communicate with us. Like, what's going on? Talk to your enthusiasts. I mean, talk to the people who pay you to keep the park open.
And I do wonder if the new owner, if he had good intentions when he purchased the park, and initially he was talking about all the money he wanted to put into the park. Yeah. Maybe that's what he intended to do, but once he like actually got in there and had things surveyed and saw how much it was going to cost, like it just didn't make sense to do that anymore. And people would understand that if you say like, hey, like I really intended to put money into this park and save the park, but it's just it's going to cost a lot more than I thought, and the best thing I can do is keep the park open this year, but after that I'm gonna parcel off the land and do something else with it. So I don't know, but just him not saying anything at all, I think is what's getting people upset.
From what I gather,
I was gonna say so upset even that this summer, I don't know for sure if it's ACE members or just coaster enthusiasts, but they were protesting outside of the park to save Blue Streak. And I think the current owner called the police on them, even though they were across the street. And
he
just doesn't sound like he's been a great guy.
No, and it seems to me from what I've researched that he really, he did the whole good businessman thing, right? He kind of took on the old Ed Hart, the Ed Hart rhetoric of we're going to save this park and we're going to bring it back from the dead and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Any good businessman is going to get you hyped up about your home park. But clearly, again, with these mega capitalists, they're going to just ultimately have the money sign as their primary motivator. So who's to say if this was his motivation from the jump when he bought the park or when he took over ownership or whatever the case. But it certainly would seem that maybe there's some dirty dealings kind of under the table when he bought the park in terms of what's your intention with it. So
a lot of the rides have been sold off, so some of the rides will live on. As far as I know, Blue Streak, that hasn't been put up for sale, but I don't even know if it would survive a tear down and a move.
At this point, man, I can't imagine.
So some speculation is if the park's going, what is he going to do with the park? Some speculation is he's going to keep it as like sort of a family destination park, but focus more on camping. There is like kind of a hotel, maybe even a convention center, like a small one on the property. And so still do things like car shows and that kind of stuff. And I think there was talk about building a band shelter, but I don't think it's going to operate as an amusement park anymore.
It is seeming that way. And, just kind of looking here, they currently don't even have any coasters. It's pretty much all gone. There's debate whether or not Devil's Den could be classified as one.
Right.
It's not on RCDB, so in my mind, it's not a credit.
It's not, but right.
I know you and Mark have had spirited debates on that one. So
I lean towards RCDB, not a coaster. Even though it would be nice to claim it as one for the credit count.
Of course. Put another notch on the belt there. But they don't even have a dozen rides. I was wrong. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rides total. So total, that's pretty bad.
They have like it's like an antique carousel. It's pretty old. It's like kind of known as one of the better carousels in the country, but I think even that was sold off. So I mean, it's at least some of these rides will get to live on in other parks, but
I don't know. I mean, it's the fate is not looking good, I guess, if we could kind of sum up everything here, but all that to say that definitely had its heyday back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And we actually have a very fun commercial to dive into to kind of reminisce on those old days at Conneaut Lake Park.
So and in this commercial, obviously, if you're not watching our podcast and YouTube, you can't see what's going on. So it's just basically a montage of clips of families having fun at Conneaut Lake. And this commercial makes the park look freaking awesome.
Yes.
And like super nice. And it's not at all what I experienced in 2019, but you can see it at one time. It was, a nice park, that you would want to go to and spend a weekend at. And so if you're listening, just enjoy the awesome 80s music and imagine all these happy families at Conneaut Lake.
We wanted more than an amusement park. We wanted a resort.
That's right. I did not get the resort. I did not get the resort feeling when I was there. I did not go for the atmosphere either, like that guy.
No, not at all.
We came to Conneaut for the ride.
Oh, geez, that's some blood-curdling screams.
The sounds of summer are for everyone at Conneaut Lake Park, PA.
Yeah, so at the end there, they showed the hotel that's on the property. When I went in 2019, we did walk around because this park is obviously, the name gives you the hint. It's set up on a lake, on Conneaut Lake, I believe is the name of the lake. It's a nice property, and this hotel, it looks kind of creepy just because it looks like it hasn't been updated since whenever it was built. Probably early 1900s, or no, not early, like 1940s, I would guess, with the park.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's charming. Like that was one thing about the park that I noticed. It felt, like a dying park, but it also felt like you were stepping back in time in a way, which was charming, but it was pretty run down, but it was cool to see stuff that, was original, maybe not original to the park. I don't know if they have anything that old necessarily. Like, I don't know if there's much older than Blue Streak, but it was cool to kind of experience all these like vintage rides, rides that you don't see at most modern parks. So it was cool in that aspect. Blue Streak itself, though, I think the ride experience, it's a really cool layout, and I do love how it kind of like blasts through the woods, and you have some pretty good airtime moments. The thing that was, not great about Blue Streak is it's pretty rough. And if you watch any POV video of Blue Streak, you can, actually see how rickety the track is. Like, it's kind of like cockeyed in spots, and
yep, kind of patched together by duct tape, probably. I would imagine. And
it was retracked a few times in the 2000s, I believe. Maybe the first time was in the 90s, and then in the 2000s is retracked. And one fun fact that I read about Blue Streak was when it was retracked in the mid 2000s, they actually used reclaimed wood from Raging Wolf Bobs at Jaga Lake.
Oh, neat. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I didn't know that. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, so I think the first drop was retracked at one point. The turnaround was retracked and a few other spots. So when I wrote it, I did notice the parts of the ride that were a bit smoother. You could tell the wood was a bit fresher, but the parts where it wasn't new, you could feel it like through your bones. That it's probably the most, I never felt like I was in danger, but it was the most dangerous feeling coaster I've ever been on, like sketchy feeling.
Yeah.
Even like going up the lift hill, you could see like the structure kind of swaying a bit. It was a really unique experience, and I'm glad I got to ride it, because at the time I didn't know that was going to be like my last chance ever to ride it. So
right, yeah. You're just hopping by on your way somewhere else. You never go to Conneaut Lake just for the heck of it.
No, and it's kind of right smack in the middle of Kennywood. If you're driving north up to Waldemere, Conneaut Lake is about right in the middle, so it's paired perfectly with those two parks. So we were able to just stop in for an hour and a half. Yeah, and Blue Streak, I do love the vintage charm of it. You start the ride off in this long, like snake-like tunnel. I think it's kind of like an S-curve tunnel, and then you go to the lift hill. And on the turnaround, you get a really great view of the Dollar General that's across the street.
Oh, heck yeah. Prime views.
Yeah. I mean, I think the layout is really cool. Like I said, it's just really rough, but it's just cool flying through the trees. Like, you get so close to branches, you could touch them as you're flying by.
Oh, wow.
So definitely, if you haven't done so, check it out on YouTube. Do a POV of it. It's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, it definitely, from what I've seen of it, from the POVs and whatnot, it made me kind of think of like, not necessarily the layout, but just with the interaction with the woods, like what you were talking about, the Raven maybe at Holiday World.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're just, I mean, if you've ever ridden the Raven, you are way in the thick of the woods. Which I kind of like that. I really enjoy that that type of interaction. And I think it's interesting that this ride has such an interesting past, because it is, I don't know, it's one of those really unique coasters. I'm kind of curious, when it was down for 10 years or whatever, like what could have gone wrong.
I'm curious why it would shut down for as long as it did. I think honestly it's probably just a money situation a lot of times.
Yeah, that's true.
It needed to be fixed and retracked, but they couldn't afford it, so all they could do is just not run it until they could afford to fix it, because it's a small park and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I imagine they probably don't get many people to the park other than locals.
Yeah. And that's sort of what, you think about similar situations. It's kind of what happened with Indiana Beach, because who the hell goes to Monticello, Indiana for any reason?
Right.
And all these kind of smaller parks that have kind of a, is it going to make it? Is it going to fold?
Yeah.
And it just so happens that it seems as though, now we're not speaking anything into existence, but it seems as though Conneaut Lake is probably heading on its way out, like we were saying. So
yeah. Oh, and I was gonna say too, because I looked it up. So ACE designated Blue Streak as a roller coaster landmark in 2010, and that was the year that it reopened after a pretty long hiatus, because it closed in 2007 and reopened in 2010. So, like I said before, I think ACE had a lot to do with that.
Yeah,
and I don't know if they donated money to have it, fixed and opened again or what, but I think without ACE, just without ACE, I don't think that we'd even be discussing whether or not it was going to reopen. I think it would have just been torn down long ago.
Oh gosh, yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, ACE has really gone in and taken care of a lot of coasters that were near the end of its life, whether it was through helping financially, or whether it was just by kind of drawing attention to the coaster and bringing the public eye to it. But
because I wonder sometimes with parks and the owners of parks, like this guy at Conneaut Lake, without ACE coming in and declaring these coasters as like historic landmarks, do the owners realize like what they have? Do they realize what they have is special? Or I'm sure sometimes owners just see a ride, especially an older one, and see like, is this making me money? What's the value in this ride, financially? But sometimes they, might not consider what's the, the historical value of a ride, and what it means to other people. So I think ACE does a good job of reminding people about those things. And if it never opens again, that's too bad.
But it also, I mean, all good things must die, and that's kind of the bittersweet nature of this podcast and what we do with Airtime Misfits, is we realize, we like to hold on to the nostalgia and keep things alive, but at the end of the day, if it's the best decision for everyone involved, then it's got to go, and it's got to come, bring in the new. So whatever that might be. Yeah.
All right, guys, if you haven't done so already, you can check us out at airtimemisfits.com. We have a store on our website where you can buy some cool defunct coaster inspired gear, enamel pins, pennants, t-shirts, candles, etc. So check that out. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Airtime Misfits. We appreciate it. Leave a comment. Thanks so much, guys, and we will see you in the next episode.